Today's video is a public service announcement with a must-read book for all parents who are raising kids in this fast-paced, high-tech world that we're living in. The book is called The Anxious Generation, written by Jonathan Haidt. And in this book, he brilliantly lays out some pretty shocking evidence of the decline of mental health in the youth in this country. And he really argues that there's been this massive rise in anxiety and depression and suicide that's being driven by two primary forces. First off, lots of kids having smartphones and then access to the internet and particularly social media. And then secondly, this trend in our culture towards overprotecting kids in the physical world. So mental health in the kids and young adults has been declining over the last 20 years or so, 20 or 30 years. But it really took a turn around 2012, 2013. And his argument is that right around that time there was this massive explosion of kids having smartphones and having kind of unlimited access to the internet and particularly social media. And he argues that social media in particular is rough on mental health for a few different ways, a few different factors. First off, it creates a lot of comparison. So kids are constantly comparing themselves to these unrealistic standards of what life should be like. And then it's constantly distracting, right? These tech companies build the social media apps to be as addictive as possible. And then kids, when they're on their phones a lot, it disrupts their sleep. And then also social media creates this venue for cyberbullying. So along with this explosion of social media access, there's also been, there hasn't been proper guardrails or protections put in place for kids, particularly around access to social media and the way kids are targeted by social media or advertising algorithms. So the basic argument is that we're underprotecting kids in the virtual world. And then the second major force that he talks about is overprotecting kids in the physical world. So he argues that there's been a trend over the last 20 to 30 years of more what he calls safetyism that has kind of developed in our culture around parenting. So more overprotection, less free play for kids. And he really argues that kids need free play. They need to be able to take risks. They need to get hurt in order to develop their confidence and certainty and ability to assess and manage risk in the physical world. And without that development, kids grow up being more fearful, and they don't have the development to grow into independent and conscious adults, young adults. So the primary argument is that we're underprotecting kids in the virtual world, we're overprotecting kids in the physical world, and the combination of those things is leading to this massive kind of decline in mental health or a rise in conditions like anxiety and depression and suicide. So if you're interested in youth mental health, I think this is a great book. I recommend giving it a read. And then I recommend, if you like it, pass it along to your friends. I think in order for us to turn the tide on this trend towards worse and worse mental health in kids and young adults, there's going to need to be some major cultural shifts around how we're parenting and how we're using devices. And I think if there's communities or groups of parents who are making these changes together, it's going to be a lot more powerful than kind of one-off kids who end up being the weird kids because they don't have the cell phone when everybody else has one. So pick it up, give it a read, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.